Hey, how's it going? My name is King Jobs Jobs, and I'm a Season 2 Crimson player who has over 100 pub match wins in Resurgence. With Rebirth Island finally being added back to the map pool, I wanted to break down 6 clips that will help you make less mistakes and more game-winning plays on the fan-favorite map. To start off with, we have 3 clips which contain an incredible amount of small but important mistakes that all add up to a lost game. And then right after, we'll switch it up and go over some excellent examples of game-winning decisions made by my teammates and I. And hopefully, by breaking these down, you all will be able to either avoid or replicate these things in your own games. So starting off with clip number 1, and it might sound weird considering that we get wiped here, but this is one of my favorite deaths ever because of how much there is to break down in this clip. Now to set the scene, there are 2 super important things to keep in mind as you watch this play out. First, everyone on my team has a self-revive. And second, there are only 3 teams and 9 players alive in Zone 4. I start off the clip by poking at the team on high ground. And while moving deeper into the building to avoid getting wall banged by an airstrike, my teammate gets knocked. Now from here, my other teammate smokes to revive him, and I start to run up the stairs to try and help. But by the time that I get there, the other team has already pushed. And at this point, I try to make a run for it, but we all get wiped. So let's break down what went wrong. First, of course, getting knocked isn't great, but here in particular, this is a really bad spot to go down. Now, why is that? Well, the other team has high ground on us, which means that they can easily fly over and push us after they get a knock. But what also plays into this is how many people are alive in the end zone. If there were a lot of other teams or the other 3-man was closer and posted in a nearby building, the team top prison wouldn't be able to push because they would get beamed by that team. But since that team is far away, this team up on top of prison can do whatever they want whenever they want to. But okay, even if someone goes down, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't necessarily mean that we all die. What really seals it is the next mistake, and there's actually 2 parts to this one. My teammate tries to revive, and in doing so, throws a smoke at his feet. But why is this a mistake? Isn't it always a good thing to smoke when you're trying to revive? Well, in this case, given that the enemy has the freedom to push us whenever they want to from a higher position, meaning that they can do it quickly by flying over, smoking ourselves blocks our line of sight to them and gives them the free opportunity to fly at us without worrying about getting shot in the air. But also, since our teammate has a self-revive, we need to let him just use it here. That in particular is a very, very common mistake I see a lot of players make, is to try and save or keep the self-revive of their teammate when in a lot of cases it's better to just let them burn it. So what should we have done different here? Well, first, of course, don't get knocked, but if you peek like I did at the beginning, you can do it safely. Second, after a teammate gets knocked, regardless of if they have a self or not, you should immediately be looking for the other team to push, and if they are pushing, they have to be punished for it. The third thing is, until we have ensured that they can't push us via a crack or dropping a kill streak on them, then and only then can we revive our teammate once it's safe. Now, that was looking into what my teammates could have done differently there, but let's look at what I could have done differently. Well, what I was trying to do down low was remember where the ladder is to climb up and get height over the team from the top of the lighthouse. That way, I could force that top prison team down to the bottom floor, which would give us the advantage going into the next zone. So I need better map knowledge, and I also should have tried to do this sooner, either right after I got into the building or after I put some damage in on them. All right, so let's move on to clip number 2. Here, my team and I are set up in a pretty decent spot to rotate from in zone 6. Now watch what happens. First, we get pushed by a solo who gets quickly taken out, and then we focus down that player's duo, and this is where we break down. We all do something different here, which is not what you want to do in the endgame. I myself jump and fly across onto the roof. One of my teammates flies down and into the house where there's already another team. My other buddy runs down the hill and shortly after goes into the building where Big Lindy just died. Now at this point, I jump down from height looking to help my teammates out and try to clear out the squad, but then I get horrible timing on a solo on the edge of zone and die trying to jump into a window. Which, I don't know how you all feel about it, but for me, dying while trying and failing to jump in a window is one of the most frustrating ways to die in Warzone. But anyway, there are 3 things that I want to point out here. And this first one is incredibly important. In the late game, you need to have a plan on where you're going to rotate before you have to rotate. Now, I knew where I was going to go on rotation from our position, but I did not communicate that to my teammates, which led to us all getting split and losing the game. Second, in endgames, you should always be trying to play for height at any opportunity that you have. And I probably should not have gotten off of height here to try and help my team. Third, make sure that your gameplay settings are correct. For me, the exact game before, I had turned off Grounded Mantle, and I could probably win this game if I get through the window. I personally have been going back and forth between having Grounded Mantle on and off, but just to avoid a situation like this again in the future, I'm going to have to put Grounded Mantle back on. Let me know down below what you use and if you feel like you have the perfect mantling settings, because I'm definitely looking for something that is better than what I currently have. All right, now on to clip number 3. Here, me and the fellas are playing for our 4th win in a row, so we're playing super slow and tactically for the entire game. Anyway, we're set up in zone in a pretty good spot and have a nasty head glitch to shoot at teams from. To set up this breakdown, I want to point out a couple of things. First, keep an eye on how much ammo I have and the fact that I have an ammo box. Second, pay attention to the mini-map and how many players are alive on the top right. So, at this point in the game, there are 3 teams, us, one other team of 3, and a solo. And at this tree that I'm looking and shooting at, there's a solo and 2 of the 3 players on the full team. One of the 2 from the full team dies by the tree, and then I get a high alert ping from my right. Now, I want to stay here on this head glitch since zone is pulling to us. It would be free licks, but I know that this guy on the right, if he pushes over to the wall above us, I'm dead. So I smoke and pull back into the building trying to get to high ground. But right as I climb up the ladder, I'm met with a player who puts me weak. I immediately re-peek just in case he tries to push me, but he pulls back and I can only get a crack. I try to get the knock with my drill charge, but I run out of ammo. Now, nading here is good because he's cracked and the drill charge would force him to move. So if I had ammo here, I could have probably peeked again and knocked him while he's running from the drill charge. But then since I'm out of ammo, I go to put down an ammo box and then start to plate up. Meanwhile, the other enemy flares their 3rd teammate who died on the hill and he lands in our window. Due to me not having on any plates and not being ready for this, he gets an instant knock on me, which eventually leads to us losing the game in a 2v1. So, the reason why I wanted to cover this example is that it's pretty incredible how the little things, like me not managing my ammo properly, can snowball and lead to you losing a game. And if I had used that ammo box, I could have knocked the guy on the wall and would have been plating up instead of dropping the ammo box down, so I probably don't die to the guy who flies into the window either. Alright, so those are the 3 examples of mistakes that if you can avoid doing them, can really help you to win more games and die a lot less. Now in my last Warzone video, 93% of you who watched weren't subscribed. So hopefully I've earned your subscription at this point, but if I haven't yet, maybe the breakdown of the next 3 clips will get me there. But either way, thanks for watching, and I hope that you all are learning a lot from the video. Okay, with that, let's move on to the good examples. In this first clip, we start out in Zone 6 with 3 teams up, Zone is moving, and we have to go far. There's 1 team on the hill out of where Zone is pulling, and there's also 1 team right next to us. Now one of my teammates goes down and I finish off 1 squad with my shotgun, and my other teammate gets a huge entry knock on the final team. Now notice what I do here. I immediately, after getting the squad wipe, start to move towards where zone is going to be, knowing that there is no one there quite yet. I finish my teammate's knock and begin to now look for a better and more safe position from inside the building to look for the last 2 players. Thanks to the enemy being totally focused on my teammate, I have free shots and I'm able to knock both of them, which leads to us winning the game. So what can we learn from this clip? Well, there are a couple things. First, my teammate got an excellent entry knock thanks to his positioning. And as we talked about earlier in the video, the main key here is that he had high ground in the late game. But also, he played the gas with his mask and played his life long enough to give me time to rotate to a strong position. Next, since I knew that there were no teams where zone was pulling to, it's most advantageous to fight from that position. Fighting from inside of zone and from cover gives you the ability to play a bit safer since you don't have to worry about rotating or having the zone at your back doing damage to you. But not only that, where zone is pulling in this example also will give me the option to play height if I get there first and I need to. Alright, let's move on to win number 2. This clip is all set up by our decision to get to a high ground position in a late game circle. One of the most important things to do when you have height in the end game is look for droppers. The second that you see a flare go off or an enemy get rezzed or notice that there are droppers above you, it's important to start shooting at them immediately, even if they still have spawn protection on, because a lot of people don't realize that they're immune to damage really high up. And once you start shooting at them, it will force them to dive down and probably land somewhere they aren't safe. And most importantly, not land on you like this one guy did, which, by the way, this guy's an absolute psycho for this play, which I respect a lot. If we didn't knock his other teammate, it's definitely possible that they do actually wipe us here. Now from here, look at the zone pull. So what I'm doing now is snaking the wall, looking for where any enemies are, and trying to decide where it is safest to rotate to. And also, I'm live pinging any players that I see at the tents since you can shoot through all of them. In this part of the map on Rebirth Island, it's incredibly important to live ping anything and everything, since almost all the cover can be shot through. Next, I throw smoke at the enemy instead of on top of us, which blocks their line of sight, but not ours. And also, instead of flying into zone, I drop down to rotate by foot. Now, I opted to do this for a couple of reasons. First, flying here opens you up to getting shot for free without the ability to shoot back. And also, I heard that there was an enemy below us. So if I had flown out over him, he would have had free shots on me and I would have been able to do nothing about it. I would have been dead before I hit the ground. Once again, you can see me demonstrating how valuable live pinging is by knocking not just one player through a wall, but a second player as well. And then I almost throw the game thinking I had the final guy on the team knocked. I was going to King Kong assassinate him, but thankfully my teammate absolutely clutches up the 1v1 to win the game. So to summarize here what went well, first, we established high ground going into the endgame. Second, we looked for droppers and protected our position. Third, we offensively smoked, ensuring a painless rotation. Fourth, we live ping any players that we saw, which led to us getting free knocks through the walls of the tents. And finally, we clutched up the 1v1 at the end. All right, so let's move on to the last example of what to do right in order to win games. To set up this clip, we can see once again, we're dead center in zone with control of high ground. There are a lot of people left alive, but what I want to show here is how this fight plays out. And since we're in the game-winning spot, what happens, as it often does, is we get pushed by a team who wants to take our position. I get what is a less than perfect knock on one player on the enemy team, but watch what I do next. I immediately start to move from where I was just shooting from, not only because I'm weak, but also because my teammates and I are stacked right on top of each other. One good nade wipes all three of us out. Now here we get another knock, but since my two teammates are right on top of each other, the last guy on the enemy team is able to knock them both. But since I'm not there anymore and I'm pushing from a different angle, I can get into range with my shotgun and give their final teammate the old 2-tap. This lets us reset, and then what do? I immediately start to look for people who are rotating. And now we're the only full team left up, which eventually leads to us winning the game. So in this clip, here are the important things. First, we're already in a good position going into the final circle with high ground and decent cover. Second, after getting a knock and getting cracked myself, I'm moving around and spreading out for my teammates to ensure that we all don't get wiped from one nade. And third, at the soonest opportunity, we're looking to hold people out of zone who are rotating, both for free kills, but also to make getting the win easier. All right, with that, let's quickly go over everything we learned from this video. First, don't get knocked by people who have the ability to push you from height. Second, let your teammates burn their self-res unless you know for a fact you can revive them safely. Third, don't smoke your own line of sight unless you have to. Fourth, always keep an eye on your ammo, plates, and utility. Little mistakes like mismanaging your inventory can lead to game-losing consequences. Fifth, always, without an exception, have a plan for rotations in the endgame and make sure that the whole team is on board and committed to those plans. Sixth, in any moving end zone, if there are no enemy players where zone is going to be, moving there first before any other teams do is never a bad play. Seventh, always try to set up on high ground going into the late game. Eighth, look for droppers and shoot at them even if they have spawn protection. Most people don't realize that they're not going to take damage if they're up high enough and will probably start to dive out of the air anyway. Ninth, make sure to offensively smoke your rotations to make them painless and also confuse your enemy. 10th, abuse live pings as much as you can, especially around cover that you can shoot through. And finally, make sure to use every opportunity you have to hold rotating teams out of zone. This will get you more kills and make winning the game much easier. All right, with that, hopefully you all learned a lot from this video and enjoyed the watch. And if you did, make sure to let me know by either leaving a like or subscribing. And if there are any specific topics you'd love to see me make a video on in the future, just let me know down in the comments. But with that, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.